we will be starting with our incredible asexual entrepreneur. She is a best-selling author. She has her own publishing house called Quirker Books. She also has contributed a #1 best-selling book called The Book of Why and How, which features James Redfield. She is absolutely incredible. She is also a show host and vlogger at Asexualise, My Asexual Life. And what I love about our next speaker is that she is a champion for a group of people that is often very forgotten and very, very underrepresented. And I am so blessed and honored for her to have her on our show. Hannah, let's get Sandra up on the stage. I want to talk to this incredible warrior. Hello, Sandra. Welcome to the summit. How are you feeling about your talk today?
I'm feeling amazing.
Yeah. Well, we're so incredibly blessed to have you. Sandra has been doing such amazing work by empowering a very, very underrepresented community. She has really, really empowered people. And that's really what I'm so happy that you are with us, because I know that you understand this mission of really turning our pain into our purpose. Tell us a little bit about your impact and how you're serving community currently.
So I'm sharing some of this in my upcoming story, which is part of my talk. But so I've been helping asexuals since 2015, and I found out I'm asexual in 2014. So I have Facebook groups for asexuals. I run 6 different Facebook groups for asexuals. So it provides a sense of community for them, a sense of togetherness, a sense of unity, and something bigger than you are yourself. And so I do different ones. One's are for friends, and I've got another one for business, and I've got another one for different types of dating. My Asexualise, My Asexual Life YouTube show is like a reality TV show, and I share my own asexual life journey in order to help others in theirs. And so I bring real life to asexuality. So there's a lot of people on the internet that talk about asexuality in textbook definitions, but I'm living that experience. Like you were talking about lived experience, I'm living the asexual life, real life experience, because I am asexual, and I show asexuality in real life context on a daily basis. So all the challenges that come with being a minority sexual orientation, I can help people to see they can overcome those and how to do it on an everyday basis. And I think that's where my power lies, because people can see, hey, she's having problems with dating, relationships, friendship. No, it can all have problems and difficulties, but I show them. I cry on camera and stuff. I'm not afraid to be authentic and real, because then a couple of days later I'll be like, well, this is how I got out that situation, this is how I had my self-care, what I did to make myself feel better. So it works really well.
Honestly, I cannot tell you. And like I said, in my little introduction, I do mention that every single one of my speakers has the capacity of taking their own experience and inspiring others. It's so amazing that we have a world full of information and research, but I really do appreciate when I see individuals take their own lived experience, because honestly, I do believe there's something special about having the empathy, having that empathy and saying, you know what, I actually do know what you go through. And here's my story, and here's how I speak that truth. Because a lot of us feel like, there's so much information, but when we hear it from someone who is actually living it, it is an entirely new, different impact. So I am so grateful for your service. I just don't know anyone else who's doing it, which just shows how important your work is. So thank you so much for being here, and I am so excited to hear your talk today on how to become your best future self. Thank you so much, Sandra, and let's get you going.
Yay, thank you, Rebecca. So I want you to remember this quote: only when the gain is greater than the pain will you push through your fears and make change happen and make it stick. let me ask you a question. Have you ever been in so much pain in your life that you felt compelled to change your life for the better forever, and you took the action to make it happen? Well, that's what happened to me. Multiple times I reinvented myself to become my best future self. And I'm going to be sharing with you today the personal journey I've been on, the transformations I've made, and how I did this step by step, so you can do the same to reinvent yourself to become your best future self. Nowadays, I'm a best-selling author with Asexual Perspectives 47 Asexual Stories book. And I published this book under my own book publishing imprint called Quirky Books. And I help asexuals with love, life, confidence, dating, and relationships through my Asexualise, my Asexual Life YouTube channel and chat show, which has had well over 500,000 views. So if you didn't know what asexuality is a sexual orientation that's based on a lack of sexual attraction. And what this means for me as a romantic asexual is I don't get the need, urge, or want for partnered sexual intercourse, but I still get attracted to guys romantically and aesthetically, just not sexually, because I don't have those feelings. So I've been featured in a lot of the media. I've been on the Jeremy Vine show, which is a very popular show in the UK. I've been on the BBC radio with Graham Torrington. I've been in the Mirror newspaper and the Mail. And I've also been on FemMedic website. I've been on a number of podcasts, including Sense of Soul and also Lifeology, which is a radio show that has over 3 million listeners per episode. So that was absolutely fantastic. But I want you to know right now that it wasn't always like this for me. So I thought I was heterosexual for years. I had my first heterosexual boyfriend at just 6 years old, and I was a suicidal, depressed mess with no purpose. So at age 10, I was a very lonely, deeply unhappy, shy and introverted girl. I was bullied in primary school and in secondary school even more so. I hated myself, I hated my life, and I really wanted my life to be over. I used to pray to God to take my life, but he wouldn't do it. So when I was 15, after a failed suicide attempt, I had a day's work experience at a local radio station. And it was then I had this intuition come over me where I knew that I was born for a very special purpose. And it involved the media somehow, but I didn't know what that was doing. So I changed myself to become more extroverted, more loud, bubbly, and talkative to do this line of work. But I pursued a career in radio by doing hospital radio for years. And in 2009, I discovered I'm not meant to be a radio presenter after all. I was made redundant, and then I knew that I was born to write books that changed lives from pain to gain. And so this completely turned my life around again. And I decided to pursue that writing career. And I got my first paid article published in a local magazine. And I wrote a book on redundancy years later. 2010 came and I was diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder, otherwise known as GAD. But I had anxiety before I was even born, and this is something that's not very much talked about. I had pre-birth trauma. My mum was in the hospital in labor for hours with me, and me and my mother had a 50-50 chance of living. She had to have extra oxygen for me and couldn't have painkillers in order to keep me alive. And I was pulled out by metal forceps either side of my head. So I had trauma and anxiety before I was even in this world. 2012 came and I was so scared to go on social media because of my generalized anxiety disorder. I was like, I'm too scared to do it. But I knew if I was to live my life purpose, which I knew was something to do with the media, then I would have to be able to be on social media, right? So after being very brave and thinking about it, I'm like, I've got to do this because I need to live my life purpose. And so bravely in 2012, that's when I started going on social media and created my first Facebook profile, which I've still got. And these days, I'm all over social media. I run 6 asexual Facebook groups, multiple Facebook pages. I share my life with the world on YouTube. And I'm literally everywhere on Twitter, on Instagram, on YouTube, in loads of forums, all over the place. So 2014 came. This completely changed my life. This is when I went to a counselor because I realized that I wanted a relationship with kissing and cuddling, but without sex. And I went to see his counselor to tell her that because I was so worried about it. And the expectation of sex at the end of a date with heterosexual guys was making me almost wet myself. So it's a really huge problem for me. And this NHS counsellor was a professionally trained. And when I spoke to her, I told her about the fact I didn't want sex. And she told me the worst thing she could have possibly said. She said to me, "You're going to have sex in order to keep a good guy." I was absolutely horrified that the person I'd come to for help told me this. I'm like, how can any guy be good for me if he's expecting me to do something I don't want to do? And in order to get love from him, the condition is I've got to do that thing. Well, to me, that's like giving a guy a license to rape me, and that is not love. And it sends a very damaging message to all of society that you've got to have sex in order to have love. But I'm here to tell you, you can love without sex. So I went home and Googled, I love kissing, but not sex. And then I discovered asexuality.org, which is the biggest online forum for asexuals. And I'm like, wow, I saw loads of other people like me who wanted a romantic relationship without sex. Not every relationship that an asexual has is romantic because some asexuals aren't romantic, but I am. And I'm like, wow, there's loads of these people. So I was like in awe and I thought I found my tribe. And then January 2015 came and I had social anxiety for years. I mean, I could not usually meet up with people in groups, only on a one-to-one basis usually, because it would just be too much for me else. And I just couldn't do it. So in January 2015, my life changed because I started holding and organizing asexual meetups. These were in-person meetups in my city of Exeter. And people have traveled all around the world to my meet, all around the world, all around the UK. It feels like from all around the world. People have traveled from all around the UK to come to my meetups. I have actually done online meetups as well, where people do come from around the world to them. So yeah, this was amazing, you know, because before I was like so shy and lonely and left out in groups, and then for years I've been able to be in groups, and that's really like stopped the social anxiety I had. And then in 2015, October 2015, was when I started my Asexualise, my Asexual Life YouTube channel and chat show. Well, it became more of a chat show prior to 2018. And so that was really difficult for me at first because I was very shy to talk about sex. And I knew if I was to help asexuals on a grand scale that I would need to be able to talk about sex, because most asexuals are not really into sex or don't like it or not feeling the same way about it as other people would. And so I needed to be able to talk about my past sex life because I'm an asexual who has had sex in the past. But in the past, I would only talk about it with an ex-boyfriend, not even a girlfriend. And so this really like worried me, and I was so shy and nervous and blushing. But I started talking about sex on my channel in an educational context. And now I can talk about sex and masturbation like I'm drinking water. So that's an amazing achievement, right? And so 2017 came along and I published my Asexual Perspectives book, this one, which became a bestseller this year, actually, under my own book publishing imprint of Quirky Books. And then in 2018, I was a speaker at the UK Asexuality conference, and I launched Asexualise Academy. So over the years, I went from hating myself, not liking my life, being shy, lonely, depressed, and feeling pretty helpless, to completely changing my life. I used NLP to help me to be happy being single, because I had to be in a relationship. I couldn't be on my own. It's very codependent years ago. So I used NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, to change my mindset from having to be with someone all the time to being happy being single, and also to have the mindset of a 21-year-old. But I want to take you back to another year that I wanted to mention, and this is 2012, something very important. So there was a number of changes that went on in 2012. And 2012, this is before I found out I'm asexual, was the year I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia. Now, fibromyalgia is a chronic pain condition that affects the nerves and muscles of the body. And it took me 6 months to come to the terms with the fact that I've got a disability for life. However, I realized in these moments that if I continue to talk negatively to myself, I would end up on crutches or in a wheelchair like so many others with the condition. And that was a threat to my freedom I just couldn't bear. So that's when I stopped talking negatively to myself, because I'd had depression for years, and I started to talk nicely to myself, or wouldn't allow myself to talk bad to myself anymore. And so it was my fibromyalgia that saved me from depression, and it became an asset to me, which is very important. Lots of people try and fix my fibro. I'm like, no, it's my asset, right? And then 2012, my life also changed because I went to see Tony Robbins, and I saw him at Success Resources event at the Excel Center. And he was the one who got me out of my comfort zone and got us to go around the audience and hug strangers. Because up until that point, I had been really nervous and scared to even touch people, basically have even a tap on the shoulder. It was only a boyfriend when I was in a relationship, which I wasn't by then. I was single, and it was also only in certain circumstances, like to hug my parents goodbye. So it was then that I got used to hugging other people, and that was very out of my comfort zone. Tony also taught us to change our state through movement and music, and it was then that I realized that I'm going to live my life as my younger teenager self, because I had this epiphany, this awakening to be my younger teenager self that I was born to be, and that I would no longer play by society or other people's rules. I would actually play by my own rules in life. So I decided I wouldn't do cooking, clean, or housework for a guy ever again, because that hurt me and I didn't want to do it. And I also was, because it hurts my fibro. So I was like, I'm not doing that anymore. And I was going to live by my mindset age, not by my birth certificate age. And I was going to live like a teenager, which is so important, because you can choose the age you want to be. Yes, you have a certificate with a piece of paper on it saying, you know, what your birth certificate age is, but you can choose whatever age you want to be, right? Which is why later on I reprogram my mind. I reprogram my mind using NLP to be 21 years old in my mind. And I do live like a teenager on purpose. It was Tony Robbins that started that, right, for me, which is amazing. And then going back to Tony again, the third thing, him and the other speakers that day made me understand all the special skills, qualities, and experience I had that I could use to help people in the world, which before then I felt worthless and useless. Because although my fibromyalgia saved me from depression and stopped me talking negatively to myself, I didn't love myself until I went to Tony's event. Well, it wasn't Tony's, it was a part of a Success Resource event, but he was a main speaker there. And it wasn't until he spoke and other people spoke that I realized, wow, I've got things to offer the world. And so it was entrepreneurship that changed my life from self-loathing to self-loving. And then if we go to 2019, it was then that I had discovered how to raise my energy, decrease my pain, and live a happier life as my alter ego Ace Fibro Girl. And I realized how I could be the superhero of my own life to save myself from pain. And so I wrote and published Fibromyalgia Self-Help Handbook, which teaches people how to reduce their pain in up to 25 aspects of their life, so that you can be your own superhero and save yourself from pain. It works even if you don't have fibromyalgia. Pretty much everything is transferable skills, if you like. So yeah, that was amazing. And then where I am at now this year is I joined Blue Talks, and I joined their speaking programs, which is quite difficult when you've got generalized anxiety disorder, right? And I've been speaking at Oxford University for Blue Talks, and I'm part of the book that just became international #1 bestseller. It's got the foreword by James Redfield and Ken Honda. And my chapter does talk about how to reinvent yourself to become your best future self. So if you want the steps, I'm going to talk you through them now, but you can also get a copy of the volume 11 book of Blue Talks, because I say the steps in there. And so that's just been an incredible whirlwind this year of, really getting out of my comfort zone and living my best life. So I'm going to go through the steps that I did each time to reinvent myself, because I obviously went from being shy, quiet, lonely to extroverted, loud, bubbly, and talkative. I went from wanting to kill myself to being the superhero of my own life. This is big changes. I went from social anxiety to being comfortable in groups, and also loving myself, enjoying my own body, kissing and hugging myself, going out clubbing on my own, and kissing some guys in clubs I've only just met. And I'm proud of that, because I could never even basically handle a touch on the shoulder usually by a stranger years ago. You know what I mean? So this is huge changes and transformations, and I'm telling you, you can transform your life and do these things too. You don't have to do the things that I do, but you can do things to transform yourself. So one is, this is the first step, you need an awareness of what the problem is. Like, what is the problem and why do you want to solve that problem? If your why is not big enough, you're not going to do it. So you need to know why you want to change that thing and what you want to change. Then the next step is to discover the solution. So you need to ask yourself, like, what is the solution? What is the ideal outcome you want from a change? And usually it's doing or becoming something different to who and what you currently are. Then you need to, in order to, you've taken, you know what you want, then you've thought about the solution, then you need to set intentional goals. And what I mean by this is, for example, if you want to change your characteristics, you need to be looking at the characteristics of a person you want to become. So how do they dress? How do they think? How do they act? And how do they behave? Then you make each one of those a goal to obtain. And then the fourth step is you have to take action. If you don't take action, nothing happens. My entrepreneur motto is putting the law of action back in attraction, because you need to take action. Action builds momentum, which is how you end up attracting what you want, right? And you have to say no to other people's agendas while you're taking that action, because people will try and drag you into their dreams and put you on their path when you're meant to be on your own path. You're not meant to live someone else's dreams. So this means saying no to requests and things you don't want to do if it doesn't feel good and right for you. So this is very important. Then you need to believe in your own abilities to work things out and look for evidence of when you've achieved it before, to know that you can do this again. You can achieve something difficult again. This is very important. And you need to also realize that you have got to take charge of your own life. It's no one else's life but you. So you've got to make you responsible for changing your life, no one else. And then only then will you actually succeed. You need to make a urgency, create a sense of urgency within yourself. Think, I have to do this because it's a matter of life or death, which it is. It's a choice between staying as you are when you're unhappy and then changing to have a new life. And so if you create that urgency, like, I've got to do this, because if I don't, I'll keep getting the same result over and over again and keep being miserable, then that's big, and that's a why. Remember, I said at the beginning, only when the gain, the achievement, the outcome is bigger than the pain will you actually take action and make it happen. So you need to be able to do that and develop a fearless mindset. It's so important. So reframe failures and know there are no failures in life, just lessons you learn from. So you can never, ever fail. Take failure out of the equation, right? And know there's only life lessons. So then you can take bold, courageous action. So we get to the 8th step now. And this is all about focusing hard on your solution and being determined to succeed in getting that solution. And once you've achieved that solution, you repeat the process over and over again. So for every reinvention you want to do with yourself, you then do this process again. 9 is the most important step of all, you can't argue. Obviously, getting started is the most important step, taking action. But this is really important, that you say, I love you to yourself, and you thank yourself for making change happen for you rather than it happening to you. Because this is where the magic is. When you make change happen for you rather than it happening to you, you are the captain of your own ship, and you can sail it in whichever direction you want, which means you end up with a life full of joy, happiness, fulfillment, which is true success, and what I wish for you. So what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to think of the one thing in your mind that you want to do to reinvent yourself in the next 6 months. Think about that thing, and then I want you to go through all these action steps again. Remember, you can buy the Blue Talks volume 11 books, so you can get these steps, or you can email me. And then once you go through these steps in 6 months' time or less, I want you to email me, sandrabellamygroup@gmail.com, to tell me how your life's transformed when you've achieved that solution. And I also want you to know that I'm really rooting for you. You've got this, you can do this, and I'm sending you so much love. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sandra. What an incredible story and such a transformation. I have to say, it's beautiful to hear that even though you got that support, and I have to say, there's so many of my clients that say the same thing, that they spoke to a mental health professional and they told them to change who they are, and that so long as they change who they are, they'll be able to kind of win this purpose or win this joy, this kind of magically destined life. But that's not going to be magical or destined if we're not being our authentic self. So I just want to give you so much incredible respect and honor for you to actually get out of that support and really, really say to yourself, no, I'm going to be who I am. I'm going to choose my path, and I'm going to make sure that I am doing it my way and with my terms and my boundaries and my limitations. This is actually the real amazing power that I've heard from your healing journey. And I'm so excited for you that you will be launching your book, which is unbelievable. Honestly, even if you're not asexual, you got to get in touch with Sandra. It's so incredible to see how many limitations you had with your anxiety disorder, with your fibromyalgia. These are things that a lot of people think are just debilitating. A lot of us kind of throw in that towel when we have these struggles. And that's actually one of the biggest reasons why we have this summit, is to show people that all of the debilitating limitations that we think are going to stop us don't have to stop us. And I'm so happy that you are becoming unstoppable in your own right, and you are empowering others to be unstoppable themselves. It's incredible as well. I love the piece about actually leveraging our struggles as assets. That's exactly what this is all about. How can we leverage our pain into our purpose? And the fact that you were able to actually learn from your fibromyalgia as a lesson on how to talk to yourself is truly inspiring. And I hope everyone takes these incredible steps to heart. If you missed Sandra's talk, definitely get the VIP pass so that you're not missing a beat. You'll get pro level notes as well. So if you don't have a pen and paper handy, get that VIP pass so you don't really lose any of the incredible, unbelievable steps that you've shared with us today. Thank you so much for being a part of our summit. I am so excited as well to hear more of everything that you have going on. Our next guest is a true powerhouse.